What's up guys, Pidget here. The last time when I played Toxic Rain was back in Scourge League. Now it's time again to play one. Of course, I tried to make the build tanky as possible, as always. The result is amazing. Elemental elements immune, stun immune, permanent flask uptime, even in boss fights without a mageblood, kept chaos resistance, just name a few. The damage is amazing, the mopping is safe. Now, we're talking about damage. Let's see what things we got on the damage side. Our skill choice is Toxic Rain. Firing a projectile with your bow, and where it lands, you create a spark pad, and this will start dealing chaos damage over time in an area, and they can overlap with each other. You need reach a certain increased area threshold to get out the maximum overlap, and the community find out the magic number 39%. At this point all of your pods will overlap. You reaching this with two simple things. We choose Pathfinder as our Ascendancy. She has built-in area increase for chaos skills. This is 30%. The remaining we will get from a simple glove craft from our bench, and voila, we have 39% increased area effect. We will scale the gem levels to the moon, reaching the magic number, level 30, using a specific crafted bow to reach that point, which is easy to craft, and you don't have to worry about the RNG because the crafting method is very deterministic. I will link very good crafting video, it's from Steelmage, and I made this bow and amulet and the quiver with his crafting methods, so don't worry, it's not that hard, and you can even practice the crafting with Craft of Exile that I'm also linked in the description. Our biggest and best multiplier is coming from our secondary source. Using ballistas, we can have 5 of these guys. They will help stack wither on the bosses, which is 90% chaos damage taken increased. Other really big damage increases the skill effect duration, because the pods will stay longer in fights and deal damage for longer duration. We also scaling from the attack speed very heavily, so we need every possible source of attack speed. This is why we were using minimum frenzy charge craft on our rings. On the defensive side, using Grace Aura for evasion rating, so we almost can die from the monster's basic attacks or projectiles. Determination and Molten Shell combo for the physical damage reduction. Because of that, we were using as our panic button while Molten Shell. When this is active, we almost immortal for the duration. Thanks to the skill effect duration on the tree, or while Molten Shell will last 20 seconds, which is plenty of time to do the boss mechanics or just search a safe zone to recover. Now we almost can be touched by physical attacks. Only danger left for us is the spell damage, but we have a solution for this. Using spell suppression from the tree, and we have 88% only from the tree, and we will using a gloves implicit for the remaining percent. I mentioned earlier, we have permanent flask uptime. We're reaching this with a couple of things. Our ascendancy choice is Pathfinder. Pathfinder have this really cool line. Gain free flask charge every 3 seconds. Taking on the tree a couple of flask nodes to boost flask charge gain, a specific belt with increased flask charge gain, and gain alchemist genius when you use a flask. And of course, all of our flasks needs this mod, gain free charge when we get a hit. With all of this, you will have permanent flask time even when you standing still in your hideout. The other best thing, you will regain 6% of your life and remove bleed when you use a flask. So when you take many hits, you will not notice because the flask will immediately heal you, and we using all elemental flask, that is reducing the elemental damage we take by a lot. Also worth to mention, we take a big percent physical damage as elemental damage because we using Taste of Hate unique flask and the body armor. With all of this, we will take 33% of physical damage as elemental damage, which is really big damage reduction because we already using the less damage taken elemental flasks. You will be immune to ignite, shock, chill, freeze, and any other elemental element. We achieving this with a simple thing. On your boots, you need this mod, chance to avoid elemental elements, using 2 ground spectrum with avoid elemental elements. For pure mapping, I suggest to you switch to Caustic Arrow plus Awakened Arrow Nova and Asynod gloves for the maximum speed, and switch back to Toxic Rain when you doing bosses or doing your sanctum runs. It's really fast and satisfying, so try it out. I would like if you hit the like button like the shepherd hitting the elder, so it can start spread to more people. Thank you! Few important things you need in the build. Aim on your weapon, +1 socketed bow gems, increased chaos damage over time, attack speed, and then craft +2 to support gems and chaos damage over time multiplier. On your keyword, normal and KS damage overtime multiplier, increase damage with bows and attack speed. On your amulet, damage overtime multiplier and +1 to all KS skill gems. Or anointment is corruption. This free item can be crafted easily. I suggest you check out the description for the crafting video from Steelmage. Flasks we using a ruby, topaz, quicksilver, quartz, unique flask, taste of hate. All of the flasks needs to be with this mod. Gain free charge when you take a hit and needs to be this flask enchantment. Use when full. The sub mod needs to be this. Increased armor during flask effect. You need these mods on one of these two flasks, because these two flasks has 100% uptime. On your quicksilver, regenerate 3% life per second. You can get this mod from the betray mechanic when unveiling flasks. You need roll the flask with alteration and augment spam, and you need at least item level 83. The following implicits you can craft with the Eldritch currency. Spam till you get the following. On your gloves, spell suppression, and while there is a unique enemy, increase chaos damage overtime multiplier. On your boots, chains to avoid elemental elements and action speed. On your body armor, determination, aura effect, and increased aura effect from your auras. I just want to highlight a few things on the passive tree that you need for the build. We're using unique jewels, namely Grand Spectrums, and both needs this. Avoid elemental elements, you need 2 of these, because they can stack with each other and it will help you to reach the fully elemental elements immunity. We're taking Pathfinder as our Ascendancy. On your first lab, take Nature's Respirat. This is really huge for the early leveling. Second lab, Nature's Adrenaline. While you have a flask active, it will give movement speed and attack speed. Third lab, Nature's Boon. Now regenerate flask charges. Last lab, Master Surgeon. Every time when a flask is activated, you cleanse the bleed effects from you and regain 6% of your life. Gem and gem links, starting with our main link, with Toxic Rain in our weapon of course, Awakened Vicious Projectile, Empower, Void Manipulation, Efficacy, and Devengered Mirage Archer support. When you're doing maps, you swapping out the Toxic Rain to Caustic Arrow, the Mirage Archer support to Awakened Arulova support. In your body armor or secondary source of damage, multiple totem support, Toxic Rain, Focused Ballista, Withering Touch, Ballista Totem, and Efficacy. In our gloves or Divine Blessing setup, Despair, Divine Blessing, Malevolence, and Inspiration. When you're doing maps, swap out your gloves to Ascendancy Gentle Touch gloves and socket all your support and skill gems inside this piece of gear. In our helmet or aura setup, summon Skitterbots, Determination, Grace, and Unbound Element support. In our boots, Defiance Banner, Flame Dash, and or cast when damage taken setup, Molten Shell, and cost when damage taken. I hope you enjoyed this video about Toxic Rain Pathfinder. If you have any question, please let me know under the comment section. Thanks for watching, I was Bridget, see you next time guys!